Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the British Columbia Museums Association webinar. My name is Lorinda Calvert, and I will be your host for today. Today's webinar topic is Exploring Digital Outreach, an Introduction to Livestream Site Tours. This webinar will be presented by Jenny Arnold, Digital Educator. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that the BCMA offices are located on the traditional lands of the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. We are grateful for the opportunity to live and learn here in mutual respect and appreciation. We also recognize the traditional lands of the many nations across British Columbia where the work of the projects described in this webinar have been carried out. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank our webinar sponsor today, Lucidia. Lucidia is a software solutions company based in Richmond, BC. They develop collections management software systems that are suitable for libraries, archives, and museums, both large and small. Lucidia's motto is redefine how knowledge is shared, which is quite fitting for a webinar sponsor. We thank Lucidia for supporting BCMA as we seek to share knowledge through our webinar series. As I mentioned, I am Lorinda Calvert, your host for today. I am also BCMA's Programs Coordinator. I have been with the organization for 2 weeks now, but this is my first webinar, so bear with me if there are any technical challenges. If you're experiencing technical difficulties, please do email our office. Vanessa, our Operations Manager, is standing by to assist. So a bit of housekeeping before we begin. If you are reading this slide and hearing me talk, you are doing great. If you can't, don't shout at your screen because we won't be able to hear you. Simply use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. It may be hidden, so if you hold your mouse either on the top or bottom of your screen, the feature menu should emerge. Use the chat feature to ask questions or make comments. I will read your comments or questions out to the host. Well, it's not necessary to wait until the end. There will be a question and answer period at the end of the presentation. This month's presenter is Jenny Arnold, Digital Educator. Now over to you, Jenny. Jenny, I think you might be muted.
Hello.
There we go.
Perfect. Hello.
All right, I'm gonna mute myself now.
Okay. Hello, my name is Jenny. Thank you everyone for joining us here on this Monday morning. Oh, afternoon now. Like they were saying, my name is Jenny. I am a digital educator. I have a background in education with a degree in elementary education and a lot of experience working with digital media and digital software and working in museums. So I'm really excited to share with you today my knowledge of digital outreach and live stream site tours. So we're going to get started. The first question I want everyone to think to themselves is, why do they want to do digital outreach? Not just because of the scenario we are all in right now, but also after this happens, why do we want to have digital outreach and live streams? It could be for accessibility. Some people can't necessarily get to your museum or your library or your art studio. There's a lot of places that people just can't get there, either physically or sometimes some locations are just very overwhelming for people. Do you want to engage with audiences, your local audiences, or your broader audience to try to reach people from far away? Or is it to see your place in a new light? Maybe you get to go behind the scenes and see things guests who even are on site are never able to see. So thinking about who your audience is, I think this is one of the biggest questions that you should answer before you start doing a live stream is who is this aimed towards? You can definitely do a program that's mainly for the general population, but try to think and remember what your specific demographic is. If you have more students or more children, try to aim a program towards that. If you want to appeal to the senior demographic or they already are your demographic, try to find ways that you can engage them. Right now, a lot of teachers are trying to find resources to educate their students. So maybe your audience is for teachers or other professionals. And another thing to remember is, do you want to do a program that is one-on-one? So directly with, say, a class or directly with a company? Or do you want it to be more broad and just show it to whoever is welcoming to come and see it? When you're deciding after your audience, what exactly are you providing for them? Is it education? Escapism? Right now, a lot of people just want to not think about the things going on in the world right now and just want to have a little time to maybe learn something new or see something funny or just be experiencing things they unfortunately can't at this time. Do you want to just give joy to people? Try to think of that type of tone you want to do for a live stream or for like a one-to-one type of stream, because you want to make sure that you're both on the same page and that your tone is the same throughout your program. So there are two specific types of digital programs. There's the stationary ones and there's the mobile ones. And depending on if you have access to your site or not, these options will vary. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the benefits of each type of program. So stationary, you're in one location. So you have your computer, you have your keyboard, your camera, and you're just right there. You're not moving around your site. These have some benefits for it. For example, organization. Everything you need is right in front of you. You don't need to go and try to find something, just prepare ahead of time, maybe have an object you want to show, you have a PowerPoint ready to go, you can show videos. So there's a lot of ways that you can be very organized when you're just staying in one location. You can also show videos, which is way easier to do when it's stationary, believe me. You also could have other options if you have more than just one camera. Say you have a document camera or a telescope that you can plug into the computer. You have a lot of more varieties there, so a lot of more options. And the number one thing that I think is great about stationary is that you can have, usually, a wired internet connection. This is not true for mobile, so we'll get into that in a moment. But having a wired internet connection can really confirm that you're giving your audience a crystal clear connection and you won't worry about losing them. Granted, there are some things you cannot control. So that does not mean that their connection is the best. One thing I'll get into a bit later, but if you are connected, try to make sure that everyone else who is watching is trying to watch through an internet cord because their connection is strong, so it has more ability to be able to watch you. There is a con, however. You are limited to your location. There are ways that you can have someone doing mobile and also stationary at the same time, but if that is not an option for you right now, unfortunately, you are limited to your location. When you are not, that would be for mobile. Mobile is actually my favorite type of program. I find it very exciting, and also the audiences also really enjoy it. So some of the pros is options. There's a lot of different things that you can do. Say if you're in a museum, you can go behind the scenes in places that no one maybe has seen except for the people who work there. You can go close up onto a painting and describe exactly what it is seeing. You could go and talk to other people who work there. You can talk to security. You could, if you're in a library, you can give them a tour of how you organize all of the books. And it makes it more dynamic. It makes it more exciting and personal, as you feel like you're going on an adventure. And a lot of audiences find this exciting because they have an aspect of what this space is while you move from place to place. When I talked about before, there are some disadvantages. So some cons: internet connection. This is probably the biggest downfall with mobile. However, test them out beforehand. Get a friend, get a coworker, and say, I'm going to test out this program. Can you please let me know if I'm in this location and it doesn't work? And if it doesn't, then let's not go there. Maybe grab an artifact or something from there and bring it somewhere else. You don't want to be in the middle of a program that's all set around one specific location and there's no connection. If you do have a phone that does have data on it, you can use it a little bit, but it does get expensive. Also with mobile, depending on the type of phone that you have, the video quality can vary for sure. But like I said, just test it out and see what you can do. So equipment. There have been a lot of programs that have almost like a news studio with cameras and green screens and a bunch of different types of technology, and it can feel very overwhelming. But do not worry, you don't need to break your bank to try to do a live stream. So the most basic thing you can have is, first, the type of software you have. There are many, many tutorials online of how to use different types of platforms. From, I have here Instagram Live, we have Facebook Live, Zoom, there's also Skype, Google Hangout, WebEx, so many different types of programs that you can do on these softwares. So talk with your colleagues to try to figure out exactly what type of platform works best for you. With the 3 that I have up right now, Facebook Live is quite convenient if you have a page, or if you have a specific company page or event, you can do Facebook Live quite easily on there. And it has a great rebroadcasting software. So if people if people tag people in it, or they like the post, or it can circulate a lot after your actual live stream. For Instagram Live, one downfall is that it lasts only about 24 hours, kind of how most stories on Instagram last. You can save it to your camera roll, but it's not as accessible after. However, if your company already has an active Instagram account and you use it already showing photos and videos and you're already really active using it, you can definitely use this, but maybe not as a full program, maybe just a little quick snippet of what's going on. My personal favorite one to use is Zoom, as that is the one that I have the most experience using. A lot of my experience is one-on-one with classrooms, and also doing live streams with different companies. So the reason why I do like Zoom are a couple of things. One is that the viewers do not need to have an account. So as everyone's watching right now, we're actually through Zoom, and you didn't need to make an account. You did need to have it installed on your computer, but if you're watching through Facebook or YouTube, you didn't make an account at all. So I find it super convenient to use. Also, you can make a free account. If you decide to go with Zoom, there's a bunch of different types of options that you can pick. There is the free account that does have some limitations. So for the free account, you're limited to a 40-minute max for 100 participants. If you have more than one person watching. So that is a limitation. However, if you are expecting only about 100 people and your programs are only about 30 minutes long, then this is actually a great option for you. If you want, you can also do the pro account each time you go up for upper plans. There is more variety. You can do webinars like this, and that will just has an extra add-on so that you can just have people attending and not looking. A lot of different options. So I think Zoom is my favorite one. However, there are a lot of tutorials online of how to use everything. So if that fits more with you, definitely check that one out. So the basic equipment, computer, makes sense. Most computers do have a camera and a speaker and a microphone built into it, but get to know your equipment. At work, most of our computers, you would need to add those aspects to add a camera to it. However, most laptops and home computers already have that built in. So just try to see exactly what your setup is. So this is great for stationary programs. And for mobile programs, all you really need is just a smartphone. Any smartphone usually will do, any Android or any Apple. It's a variety of the types that you'd like to use. Try to make sure that the type of phone you have is up to date and is able to download those platforms that we were talking about. So Instagram, Facebook, or Zoom, those all have apps. So you can just download those on your phone, and that's all you really need for a digital program. There are a lot of other equipments that you can make it look more crisp and more smooth, which I'll get to in a moment. But right now, it's very difficult to go out and buy these things. So if you just have these basic things, you will be great. Another thing is headphones. If you are on site and you have access to your site, headphones are super important. It's good to be able to hear what's going on if you do have that one-to-one, or that your participants have camera spots so you can actually hear them. And you don't want to be restricted to just as close as your phone is or as close as your stationary is. I'm a big fan of wireless headphones for programs. I am quite animated. You can't see me right now, but I'm moving around a lot. And if I had my headphones hooked into my laptop, I would be very restricted. And say I wanted to go and grab something, I would have to run away and not hear anything what is happening. So having wireless headphones during programs are great. I've had a lot of experience working with AirPods. They are quite expensive, but if you already have them, definitely you can use them. And I've used them working with other colleagues. So say if someone is holding the camera and holding the iPhone and someone's doing a presentation, they can both be wearing the AirPods at the same time, which is great, so that the facilitator and also the educator can hear what's going on. A really cool function as well with the AirPods is that they each have a function that enables them to have the microphone activated. However, sometimes it's hard to know whose is. So I've made a little bit of an example. So we have these two ladies, and one puts in an AirPod first, the other one puts the second AirPod in. Currently, the person who put the AirPod in first has the microphone activated. So the audience is able to hear them. Now say that the second person needs to speak. They both have it in. The first person takes the AirPod out, puts it back in again. Now the second person's AirPod has the speaker activated. So now they can talk. Still, each person can hear what's going on. I don't recommend going back and forth super fast all the time. If it's a conversation, maybe find a different type of microphone. But for this scenario, if you're doing an introduction and there's the educator during the program and then the outro, this is a great way to use a microphone and also be able to hear, and you don't need to be super close together. So if you're doing a mobile program and you're showing something and the educator's walking away talking about something else, you don't need to worry that the audience isn't hearing them because you know that their mic is activated. One thing to remember is with sharing headphones and all that stuff, hygiene is an issue, so make sure to clean them between any person that is using them. Very important to do that. I also have some bonus equipment, like I was talking about, that can help enhance your programs if you have a little bit more of a budget and you want to make it look more crisp and exciting. The number one thing I would suggest buying is a phone gimbal. This is a lifesaver and makes digital programming so much easier, especially mobile on-site programs. So what you do, you just put your phone right into the top of it and it stabilizes it. We've all watched videos when someone's holding a phone and they start laughing or they say something and gets all wonky and you can't really understand what's going on. But when you have this, it makes it a lot more smooth. And there's a button near the handle where you can move it yourself. You can move it up and down and side to side, which is very convenient for sure. So the one I'm showing right now is the Osmo Mobile, so OSMO. There's a lot of different brands of those. There's like the first generation, I think they're on the third now. But if you're getting any extra equipment, I would definitely recommend this if you are doing the mobile program. The second thing I would suggest is a tripod that is collapsible and easy to move around and very light. You don't want a huge mic one, but a type of tripod like this you can actually attach the gimbal to it and you can move around with it. So say you're going to go and talk to a curator, or you're going to go and talk to a librarian and you're walking and you want to sit down and talk with them, your hand will get very tired holding it the entire time. So having a tripod that you can just put down and you can stand in front of it and people can see and hear you and you can see them, super convenient. And the last thing is a light. You don't necessarily need to have a light, but just be aware of your setup at your place and if a light is necessary. Sometimes we don't notice how dark an exhibit or a gallery is. Sometimes it can be very hard to see. So that's why practice ahead of time. But if you do have some money, maybe get a light or do programs during the daytime. So types of programs. All depends on your type of company and your type of institution of where the types of programs you would like to do. So the main one I'm talking about is tours. And tours does not mean one person standing in front saying, this is this is this, carry on. That's not all tours. Tours can be exciting and behind the scenes you can say, okay, now we're going on an adventure to entomology and we're going to look at really cool insects and like follow me and I'm going to tell you a story as we go. Tours can be going up to an exhibit and asking them, what do you see? What more do you see? So tours of showing the space, especially during this time when a lot of places are closed and no one is allowed inside, still showing them that we are still here and we still want to share with you. So tours are very exciting. Also, there are talks. So talks could also be incorporated into a tour. They're not completely separate, but when I talk about talks, that's more of kind of like what I'm doing right now. I'm talking and I am sharing my knowledge. You can do it this way. It could be if my camera was on. You can have a lot of different ways of doing talks as well. And the last one is activity focused. So that could be a program specific thing, for example, doing story time. This is a specific activity. I'm going to read a story, share a PowerPoint of the book so that everyone can see. I'm going to read it, and then we're going to do an activity. We're going to draw our favorite character from the book. Or an activity focus could be someone talking about creating an exhibit or creating something important that you can see, and you could ask the guests to go in their house and find something they find really important and try to make that an exhibit. Say if they really like a stuffed animal, they can try to rearrange it in their house and an expert can tell them how to do the lighting and how to do a description of it and the important things of making an interactive display. So there's a lot of different types of programs that you can do. So there's different steps of doing your program. So before, you need to get your equipment, you need to get your platform, let people know about your program, and don't be concerned if your program happens and no one is watching on the first one. Do not worry. A lot of programs, you can record them and then post them online. You could post them on Facebook, you could post them on YouTube, on your company page, and there's still going to be people who can watch them after. So while you're doing the program, do not worry if no one's watching right away, because there can be people later. So beforehand, please charge the equipment. I know it sounds very simple and obvious, but please do it. Even if you've only used it a little bit and you're like, oh, this sure will be fine for a while. Technology sometimes drains very quickly. So definitely charge everything that you are using. Set up a meeting. So for example, in Zoom, there is when you have an account, there's a little schedule button. Once you click that, this is how you would set up a meeting. This is a little example of what it would look like. You set the date, the time. If you want a password, use your personal ID. I've been reading up a lot that people are recommending not using your personal ID number, as people, if they get a hold of that and you don't require them to use a password, someone could join in without registering, or they could take over the screen share or something like that. So you want to make sure that the people that you want to see your program do, if that is the type of program you are doing. Also under password, it says video. If you want it to be more of just you talking, make sure you have participants off. And I just have it off here for me as well. But just so you don't have a bunch of people coming in all at the same time. And near the bottom, it says advanced options. And I've clicked mute participants on entry. You don't want someone to come in late. And if that's not clicked in the middle of your program, someone will enter and be like, hello, who's there? And is this thing on? And no, you want to make sure that everyone is muted when you start. Test as much as possible. I did talk a little bit in the beginning about this, but get a coworker, get a friend, try to figure out where the connection tests are working, if your program makes sense, if the route you're taking is safe. If you're on site and you want to go from point A to B and there's a lot of hurdles in the way, maybe reorganize where you're going, because safety is the ultimate thing to keep in mind. Equipment modifications. So this is something that is a lifesaver. So say you are doing a mobile program, you're going to want to make sure that on the phone you have your notifications turned off. You don't want to call halfway through your program, getting a call from someone, and now the audience can't see, and now you're flustered. So make sure you have your notifications off on Do Not Disturb. For iPhones, make sure that the screen is not on lock. That means it's a function that allows you, if you're doing it horizontal or vertical, your phone, it will stop you from going one way. So make sure that the lock is off, because a lot of programs, if you want to show it vertically and the lock is on, your phone won't be able to move and your whole audience will be seeing your program sideways. So test and make sure that all of those modifications are changed. Also say on Zoom, make sure that you have your speaker set to the correct speaker, that your microphone is set correctly, and your camera, if you have multiple cameras, is the correct one. That's all just right at the bottom of your screen. So make sure to modify exactly what you need to do. And make a checklist. I'm saying a lot of information, but if you make a checklist, it's super easy to remember what exactly to do. So have a before, during, after, make sure to charge the equipment, make sure to talk to the participants ahead of time and let them know how they can participate in your live stream. It's not just about providing information. If the people watching have no idea how to engage with it or how to set it up, it can be very frustrating. So make sure to have a checklist for you and also for your participants. Now it's during the program. It's the fateful day. You've got everything organized. You're ready to go. during the program, keep in mind exactly what the camera sees. So look directly at the camera. At one place I worked, we put a little smiley face where the camera is, so it's easy to remember. Look up there. It makes it so much more personal if you actually look at the person, even though you're not looking at, well, they think you're looking at them, so that makes it personal. So look at the camera. Be aware what else is being shown, especially during programs from home. You want to make sure there's nothing in the background happening. Make sure that what you are showing is what you actually want to show. If you're on site and you want to show them a specific article of clothing in a gallery and you look close up to it and you're focusing on the educator and not the camera, you're actually not showing them the clothing, you're showing them the wall. So just make sure you're looking at exactly what they want to see. Also, again, lighting. This doesn't mean you have to go out and buy lights. Just be aware where the lighting is. If there's a place in your house and you're doing a tour with a librarian, like the ways I bring my job home or the ways that I have my passion for reading here, and you want to show them some of your collection and it's in a really dark room, maybe open up some windows and maybe move the artifacts or move the object towards the light. Slow down. I have kept telling myself this throughout this thing, and I'm trying my best, but always slow down. Believe it or not, you are most likely talking way faster than you think you are. When you slow down, guests are actually able to hear what you say, and you also give them time to think about what's going on. So if you have an activity that you want them to do, or you have a question for them, and you ask them, you wait 2 seconds and continue on, that's not very valuable. You did not give them time to actually think. So you won't be this slow, but just slow down a bit so that people can really follow along with what you're doing. Also, think about your audience. Again, slowing down. Make sure everyone's muted before they join. Monitor the chat. Make sure you have some engagements throughout. If you're doing, say, Facebook Live, and you say, like, put down in the chat where you're visiting from, or let us know your favorite type of, I don't know, digital program, something like that. And they can put it in the chat so they feel like they're being acknowledged. And you can say, oh, I see Miranda said this. Oh, thanks for joining us from Colorado. Those types of things, so that they are engaged and they're getting called out and it's exciting and they know that they are being seen. Also, movement is very important. Make sure to have some types of activities, because sitting down and just watching stuff for a very long time can be very tiring. So if you are sitting down right now and you're watching this, I encourage you to stand up, just put your hands up in the air and stretch, and then kind of put them to your side, kind of twist your body to get energized, wiggle a little bit, and then we're ready to go. During programs, you can actually have it more focused on exactly what your program is. Say if you're talking about animals, maybe get them to stretch like a bear and to like move around like an eagle, like flap your wings like that. You can make it more engaging by saying, okay, I want you, if they're in pairs, you can say, okay, now talk to your partner and ask them what they think, or put in the chat what you think this is happening, or between this and this, why do you think this? So try to make it as engaging and as moving as possible. It can sometimes be hard to do, but always have some type of break, no matter what type of program you're doing, especially with children. Trying to get them to move a lot is great. So now your program is done. Hooray, you did great. Now, what do you do? And still engage with your participants. Even though they may not be live right now, if you post it online or you post it on Facebook, you can, even during your performance or during your program, you can say, after this is done, please let me know if you have any more questions. If even though I'm not live right now, if you have any more comments, put them in. I will be checking them throughout the day for today. If you have any more questions, let me know. Still engage with them. And review. Like any program or anything you do, try to reflect on what worked, what didn't work, what was surprising that you didn't think was going to happen and did. Some funny moments. Maybe someone asked a really interesting question, and just keep reviewing exactly what you're doing to make sure that the next time you do it, you're ready to go. And I do have a couple of extra tips that didn't really fall along with those different types of categories. So, tips, safety plan. I did actually say this. Plan your route, know where you're going. Safety kind of falls under, if you're in your house, making sure if you have pets or if you have children, making sure that you're not walking and showing them something and trip over someone, making sure everyone is safe. Make a checklist. Keep it simple. It doesn't need to be a whole thing that has 5 different parts to it with different subsections, and you want to make sure they get this and this and this. Make it as simple as possible. As soon as something is fun, quick, and engaging, it's super easy to do. Catchy title. You want to get people interested in what you're doing. So when you do a title, try to convey exactly what you want your audience to know, like an introduction or what you're going to do. Try to make it catchy so people actually watch it. When you do an introduction, say what it's going to be, talk a little bit about yourself, and then go right into what you're doing. And when you have interactions throughout the entire thing, it makes it a lot more calmer to do. Screen sharing. This is a tip that I've learned about screen sharing. If you're new to Zoom, this is ways that you can screen share. So I'm just gonna use my mouse. When you go down here, it says share screen. You wanna go to advanced. And this is important, like I was saying, when people try to share their screen when they're not supposed to. When you say who can share, only the host, that takes away the concern of someone joining it and sharing their screen. And then when you click the button, you will see all your different options of how you can share. These 2 down here are very important, especially if you are showing a video or you are showing an audio clip or something. You want to make sure that they can see and hear it properly. So it changes their screen and it uses the computer sound, which is very important. Another tip with this, when you are sharing a video, try to mute your mic when you're sharing it so they don't hear the video twice. So if you have the clicked share computer sound, it will share whatever the computer internally is sharing. So just make sure that your mic is also muted. Some examples of digital tours and live streams. If you look up Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, they have a lot of really cool programs that they do, and I have done a couple of them with them, and you can show examples of site tours on there. There's more stationary programs with PowerPoints, and then there's ones of gallery tours and more interactive, talking with curators and talking with collections managers and security and all those really fun, engaging things. Definitely check that out. And just another point on the types of programs you're doing. You see a lot of them in Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. Don't think that it has to be brand new information. If you do have some program that you've done in the past and it's easily adaptable, do that first. Try to see what you have and try to adapt what you already do into a digital program. We don't want you to start bare minimum with nothing. You don't know what you're going to do and start from the ground up. You can do that, but I would definitely recommend starting slow first and seeing how you can adapt your own programs. And things you may not find exciting are exciting to the general public. Like if you work at a museum, you could say, hey, did you know that this wall is actually curved because of this? And did you realize this? Like little behind the scenes things. So don't try to pressure yourself of knowing the very basic educational aspects of the position. If even things like how do you become a librarian? How do you become an artist? Those types of things are very exciting for people. Do not panic. This is my biggest tip. Some people panic by this. Some could do this. Just stay calm. Something about education with technology, some of it is out of your control, unfortunately, but that's also kind of nice, because if something goes wrong and you've done everything you could, just stop, maybe reset the system, like reopen Zoom, restart your computer, get ready to go. It will all work out. That's the best thing I could say. Is it's hard to do, but if you're comfortable and you've practiced and you've just gotten to know the equipment you're working with and you're confident in the things that you are saying, staying calm is the best thing you could do for digital programs. As someone is watching from who knows how far away, and if you are calm and you have that calm energy or excited energy, but not upset or angry, then everything tends to be a lot better. And remember, you got this. Yeah, so thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Back to you.
Thank you, Jenny. That was amazing. I definitely learned a lot. Like, I was just muted there and I had to remember that I needed to unmute myself. I really, really appreciated all of your fun gifts to keep everyone engaged. So we have some time for questions. Just a reminder, if you have a question, to use the chat window. And if you are viewing this on Facebook Live, you can comment your question on Facebook Live and Ryan will send it over to me. So Jenny, I'm gonna read the questions out. We have one here. Are you ready to go, Jenny?
Yes.
Okay. So the question is, hi, my name is Sarah and I manage the tour program at the Vancouver Art Gallery, and I am the artistic director of Kickstart Disability Arts and Culture. I have two questions related to digital tours. The first question is, first, for giving of tours specifically, how do we minimize the potential of recording tours and reusing these tours for the entirety of the exhibition, and thereby reducing the uniqueness of tours and potentially massively reducing the workload of our educators as their work may be recycled?
So just to go over the question, you're wondering if like having digital program stuff online will stop people from coming in?
I believe so.
Okay, so as far as I've learned and what I've seen, having things online it doesn't stop people from coming in, because it's a completely different experience. When someone's on site, they have the sights, the sounds, the touch, all like their senses are in a location. But when it's online, you still have the base knowledge of what you can see and what you can hear. But being on site is a completely different realm. If you are nervous about people coming in and seeing it, you can always not record it. You could record it and just keep it for yourself. You can make sure that the record function only saves to you. But just like the Mona Lisa, there's so many photos of it, but people still gather around to see this artwork. They want to come and see it in person. Nothing beats in person. But with digital stuff, you can go to places that maybe you can't see in person. So if you don't want to show those types of art that is on display and you're worried about that, maybe go behind the scenes and see some of the ways that the art has been like put together, and the lighting, or talking about your storage there, and doing different types of programs that expand on it. So you could focus on maybe one of the artwork and they could view that in the galleries. You can go back to the computer and maybe do a slideshow about the importance of this, about the significance. And if you come in, you get to see all these really cool things up close and personal, and try to frame it that way so that they can have this engagement online, but when they come on site, they get to have even more. So that concern I've heard a lot, and it is something that is valid to be concerned about. But I do believe that we're talking with sometimes two completely different demographics, and that people will still come on site. I've seen so many photos, as you've seen in my photos I've shown. I've seen so many videos and stuff of Disney World. I will still go. It's completely different.
Thank you, Jenny. And the second question is in regards to guests with accessibility requirements. So just how to maximize engagement when digital programs may themselves be inherently inaccessible, if you have any thoughts on that. They specifically mentioned for audiences such as the blind or children on the spectrum.
Definitely. That's a great question. Sometimes when you create digital programs, you can, if someone has difficulty seeing, you could do a digital program when you describe what is going on. You could show the sounds of what is happening. For example, at the Royal BC Museum, there's certain sounds like in the Our Living Language exhibit, and it's their cradle song. And maybe you go in there and people can hear the music, and you can describe what the space is like. And you also talked about, for people who are on the spectrum, having digital stuff where they can stay in the comfort of their own home is really important. Going to a museum can be very overwhelming with all the different types of senses and just too much going on. So when they're at home, it can actually benefit them a lot by just doing a regular tour program or getting them to move around a little bit. And if it's a one-on-one type of program, say if there is a family that has asked for it, and you have the capabilities of doing it, you can always design a program specifically for that child. If, say, or that person, if they're very excited about a specific type of artist, maybe you can do a little like a performance of what that artist would say and the background of it, and get to know them a lot more. To really tailor it to that person is important. But I do feel that digital programs can be a lot more accessible outwards than the people who can not make it in. To try to streamline it, things like if you do it on Facebook or with Zoom, when you send out information about what you're doing for this program, just sending them a link. A lot of these programs or these platforms, you just can send a link and they click it and they go directly to that. So it really minimizes exactly the workarounds of trying to figure out where to find it, where to do that. If you're already communicating with them through email, do it that way. If you're already communicating through Facebook, do it that way. And try to make it as simple as possible for them to be able to reach it. So just a direct link, click here, here it is, or a little a little form of, you want to participate in a digital field trip, this is great, or a live stream. These are the steps you can take to make sure it's a success. So they're not overwhelmed when all of a sudden they have to try to connect everything all at once. If they have something in advance, it can be a lot easier.
Thank you. And someone did ask if you know of any stream applications that have closed captioning options available. I know someone has mentioned in our chat that Microsoft Teams offers a beta auto closed captioning. Is there anything that you're aware of?
I did see that Zoom also has closed captioning. I was looking through it, but I believe that is something you have to put in after the fact. Unfortunately, I haven't gone too far into the captions, but when I did go to I made an account, a free account. I had it on my computer and I went under account settings, and there is something that says closed captions and you can click it, but not sure how effective it is, but there at least is the option for that, or it's in the works.
Mm-hmm. Today, I actually explored that Google Hangouts has closed captioning, but I haven't used Google Hangouts that much. So this was just something I stumbled upon today. So I think there's a lot of stuff out there we can still be exploring and learning.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, we got some more questions. One of the questions from Wendy Lorch. Are there copyright issues with using books, pictures, etc. as part of one's online presentations?
Yes, definitely. Thank you for reminding me. I was going to talk about that. Online stuff can be very tricky. of what you can and cannot share. So definitely talk to the experts and talk to, if you have someone in your site or in your place of business that is in charge of publishing or in charge of permissions, please do ask them. I do work on other type of online digital content, and it's always important to make sure any audio clip, image, photo, anything you use, that you do have permission to do it. A lot of times with books, it depends on the type of way you are sharing it. Say you're reading a book to the public. You can read maybe a chapter of it. You're not showing them the book. You're not keeping it recorded forever. It's just for one time. That should be fine. I haven't done a lot of work with that. I do know when I've done educational programs with our Indigenous educator, those cannot be recorded, as those are their intellectual property. So do be careful with those types of knowledge. You can share it and do live streams with it. You just can't save it. So definitely talk to those educators and talk to those permissions people to make sure that you are not breaking any laws.
Yeah. A question from Facebook Live from Matt Pritchard, the education coordinator at the Museum Windsor. He says, thank you so much. What are your thoughts on doing trailers / mini commercials to attract people to main videos / live streams?
About me doing that?
I think just in general.
Just people. Yeah. Well, I with doing a little bit of research before this webinar, there are actually a lot on YouTube. If you look up how to Facebook Live, how to use Instagram Live, and all those types of tips. So a lot of people are doing that. Specifically for digital education, there isn't a lot online. It's not new that people are doing this, but it is new enough that people are starting to get the traction that it deserves and starting to get more notice. But as far as I'm aware, there's not a lot online about exactly doing these types of programs. That's why I encourage you to go on YouTube and watch some examples of them for that. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
That answers it.
I think that's good. We have one from Laura from the Vancouver Japanese School and Hall, Vancouver's new National Historic Site. We are launching walking tours of historic Powell Street in the downtown east side this summer, so we thought a virtual tour would be a good teaser. However, there's quite a bit of ambient noise from the street. Any suggestions on how to reduce this?
Yeah. One thing, when I was talking about the types of microphones, if you have if you're doing a recording on your phone, best case scenario is that you have a specific type of camera that has a muffler thing on top of it, so it does reduce the noise. But if you're using a phone and you have the gimbal and the AirPods really reduce the sounds that can hear throughout. So that's important. Another thing you could do is you can record yourself with a regular camera walking around during the tour. But you do it silently, and then you go back home and then you record what you would have been saying. So that could kind of be a little teaser trailer, so they can still get the feeling of being out and about, but then the audio is crisp and clear, and you can combine those on Movie Maker or Adobe and any of those platforms, so that they can really hear what you're saying, of little trailer of what to do. But I am a big fan of people recording their programs, not just necessarily to share with everyone, but if you have a program, recording it just internally so that you can rewatch it and the next staff can know, or you'll know what to do different, and all those things. But yeah, that's how I would recommend doing that.
Thank you. And in your experience, are there certain types of arts programming that don't lend themselves well to the online setting?
Nothing comes to mind necessarily for art programs that don't work. One thing is just to keep in mind when you're doing an arts program to adapt it for the type of materials that they need. So say if during your program you want them to do a draw along, or to create, if you're talking about like conceptual stuff, and then you want them to draw something like that. Or if you want them to make something, try to think of what the normal household would have. Normal is in quotes, what you think people may have at home, to try to make that more accessible for them. But you can also upload stuff online and let them know, like, these are the types of things you can do at home. Kind of going back to the other question we had earlier, if they can do it at home, that doesn't mean they're not going to come in and do it at your place, because that whole environment and experience is a completely other experience. So just be aware of the type of materials and things that you would require to do your program. And if people don't have that, have other ways or different alternatives that you can do to still make it engaging.
Yeah, thank you. And one more question here. They're saying, I am trying to get our after-school science enrichment program online. We pride ourselves on doing hands-on activities. However, right now it is going to be difficult to do this. Do you have any tips or tricks for doing hands-on activities online in a classroom of approximately 25 students in their own separate homes?
Very good question. Well, they kind of had two questions. One was like where to put them online. So if you do have like a Facebook page or a website, if you have a Weebly website, those are really good ways that you can share your knowledge of what to do. Kind of going back of what we were discussing before is trying to think of the type of equipment that they have. So like with fun science experiments, I know right now a popular one is the water dish with pepper, and then you put the soap and you can see it change and move. You could do not necessarily like chemistry, those types of things are kind of hard to do because you don't have all the supplies right there. But if you have a lot of physics, science type of activities, physics is my favorite. So you could do like ways at home, like if you have like a little car, or if you're going to learn about friction, you're going to learn about slope, you're going to learn about building something, that can still get kids engaged and excited. And you can give them an example and maybe show a video of a building being made and talk to them a little bit about that. And now that they're at home, like find stuff in your house that you can build something with. You may have popsicle sticks or just regular sticks or straws or something, and try to build something. Don't limit to it has to have this specific equipment, but if it has a variety, that makes it a lot easier for more people to engage with. And then they can try to build it, and then you say, okay, like now find a dime and put it on and see if it falls or not, and continue putting stuff on. So those types of fun engagements where it's less to do with the equipment that people, or supplies that people usually don't have, try to think of more of things that they do have, if that helps.
And one more question here from Facebook Live. Is there a rule of thumb for the length of live streams?
All depends on the type of program you do. A lot of things I've seen is for like Instagram Live or Facebook Live, they usually say about 20-minute programs, depending on what you're doing, really. And the programs I usually have done is 30 minutes when we do just a basic tour. But if there's more activities and more in-depth things, we usually say 45 minutes max. I would never go over that, just for attention span, especially depending on the type of audience that you do have. If you have really little kids, maybe 15 minutes, and have a bunch of little interactive breaks throughout. So really think about the type of audience that you have, but I would say between 20 and 40 minutes, depending on the type of program that you're doing, and if you have different activities and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you very much, Jenny, and everyone. We appreciate your participation and look forward to keeping in touch. Jenny is working on a blog post that'll be up on our website touching on this topic, so do check our website out soon to take a more in-depth read into that topic. And this webinar, as well as the Facebook Live, will stay on our site so that you can come back and view it again, or send colleagues who didn't have a chance to view it. So thank you again, Jenny. And for everyone, please do mark your calendars for our next webinar, which is Wednesday, April 8th. We'll be hearing from BC Hearn. The webinar is an introduction to emergency response and collection salvage. And please remember, if you have any suggestions for topics in 2020 or wish to present one yourself, please email programs@museumsassociation.bc.ca, and please fill out our follow-up survey, which will be in your inbox soon. Lastly, if you are not already a member of the BCMA, please consider joining us and staying connected. Your membership benefits include free webinar participation, as well as access to all previous recorded webinars, reduced registration fees for our annual conference, access to ProD resources through our website, including the Roundup magazine, regular e-newsletters with up-to-date grant information, and job postings, and much, much more. Thank you everyone so much for participating, and we look forward to our next webinars. And again, thank you so much, Jenny, for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.
Thank you, you too.